Your home, an area of security and happiness. The last thing you want to have happen there is an accident, let alone one that has serious implications. How safe is your home, and is there a way to make it safer? Welcome to today's Chrissy B Show, the UK's only programme dedicated to mental health and well-being. Well, it's Family Safety Week, and on today's programme we're showing you how to prevent serious accidents. Resident Dr. Rob Hicks will be demonstrating how to perform basic first aid on some of the more common accidents, and we also feature a video courtesy of the Royal Society of the Prevention of Accidents on the matter. We also have family coach Sharon Lawton on to talk about how to make family safety fun in the home, and for those who have suffered a traumatic accident, resident psychologist Dr.Audrey Tang gives us some psychological advice on how to deal with trauma. Also on the programme today we have Sally Wolford showing us how to declutter your kitchen drawers, and we also take a look at how resident child safety advocate Marilyn Hawes educates on the signs of sexual abuse in an eye-opening video. According to RoSPA, accidents are the biggest killer of children and young people, with an average of 62 children under the age of 5 dying of an accident per year. Those most at risk from a home accident are children under the age of 4, and falls account for the majority of non-fatal accidents, whereas the highest numbers of accidental deaths are due to fire. Despite this, most of these accidents are actually preventable through education. Now, with this in mind, let's hear what charity RoSPA have to say on family safety.
There are some really serious accidents that can happen to young children at home, and they're the ones that we're really interested in preventing. And that's why this Family Safety Week, we're focusing particularly on 5 different types of accidents. Household cleaning products have been in the news a lot recently, things like liquid laundry capsules and liquid dishwasher capsules, as well as other household chemicals that you may find under your sink, and also medicines and other remedies that you may have at home. The crucial advice when it comes to keeping young kids safe from this type of product is to ensure that these items are kept well away from young children, preferably high up in a lockable cupboard. In terms of choking, we know that food sometimes plays a role, and that's why it's really important to cut small food items like cherry tomatoes or grapes into quarters, and to ensure that other small items like peanuts are kept away from very young kids. We sadly know of a few deaths and some very serious injuries that have happened due to the corrosive effects that a button battery can have on a young child. Now, button batteries are very, very small. They come in all sorts of household items, from car keys to remote controls. These are some household kitchen scales. They all contain button batteries. Other items may be novelty Christmas cards or novelty birthday cards, and some toys for children also contain button batteries. What's very serious about a button battery is it can be swallowed very quickly, very quietly without you knowing, and the corrosive effect can then start to destroy a child's esophagus or even their internal organs of their abdomen, and that's why medical attention is very, very important. The best way to prevent a button battery accident is to ensure that young kids don't come into contact with button batteries in the first place. Therefore, keep items like these away from inquisitive young children, particularly if you know that the casing for the button battery isn't very secure. Sadly, suffocation and strangulation are other accidents that we're aware of affecting children each year. Nappy sacks have been in the media recently. These flimsy bags that so many of us find really useful for disposing of dirty nappies are very, very lightweight, and unfortunately we have heard of cases where very young babies have ingested them. That means that they've swallowed them, or the nappy sack has blown onto a baby's face when that baby has been sleeping in a cot. So again, the best advice is to keep these items out of the reach of young children. Keep them securely high up. Don't have them loose, stuffed into the pockets on a cot tidy. Make sure that they're kept well away. If possible, purchase the ones which come on rolls, because that means that they're less likely to become detached and to waft around. You might have heard about blind cords as well. So this is a blind that's fitted with a looped blind cord, which enables you to adjust the blinds to put it up and down. You can see that this one comes with a warning. That is required by law now if you're buying a new blind. Our advice when it comes to blinds is to look for cordless blinds wherever possible, particularly if you're installing a blind in a child's bedroom. And in terms of bedtime, in addition to blind cord related accidents, we've sadly also heard of children who have been smothered by objects which have been lying in their cot, and that's why for particularly young babies the advice really is to just have the baby and their bedding in the cot, be that a blanket or a sheet or a baby sleeping bag, and to keep clutter in the cot to an absolute minimum. Now obviously we've talked about a number of quite serious issues here, but at Rosbert we don't want to scare people, we just want to raise awareness of the types of serious accident that can affect under 5s, and to equip parents and empower them with the skills that they need to take action to prevent those accidents. We'd love people to get involved in Family Safety Week by looking at the website and looking at our Facebook page and sharing the really important advice with other people that they know, be they friends or other members of their family. And in that way we're really hoping that together as a community we can come together to show that accidents don't have to happen.
Thanks very much to the ROSPA there for that eye-opening video. And now here to give us some excellent first aid tips for common household accidents is resident Dr. Rob Hicks. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hi, Chris. Hi.
Different from our normal segment today, but also very, very important.
Very important because the reality is accidents do happen around the home and outside, and although prevention is better than cure, sometimes accidents happen despite all the measures that people take to try and avoid them in the first place. Particularly with small children and babies, when there's lots of things going on, and perhaps a parent's mind can be distracted just briefly, and that's sometimes when things happen.
Okay.
So one of the things I'd like to demonstrate, of course, and it's terrifying when it happens, is the child who might be choking. Okay. So we've got Dolly here.
We forgot to introduce her. This is Dolly,
this is Dolly, everybody. Say hi.
She moves.
So some of the indicators that a baby might be choking is that they're not crying, they're not gurgling, or they're not breathing. So the first thing you do is you look into the child's mouth to see if there's anything that's blocking it. You don't go fishing around because that might push any obstruction further in. But you might, if you can see it and it's safe to take something out, then you can do. If you think the child's choking, your baby's choking, what you do is you lie them flat, supporting their head and neck, and then using the heel of your hand, you give them up to 5 sharp pushes on their back like this, between the shoulder blades. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you check your child's mouth again to see whether whatever's been causing the choking, the obstruction, is easily removed. If not, then what you're going to do is abdominal thrusts using 2 fingers, using the center of the chest along the armpit line. Like so again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check the child's mouth again. If the child is still choking, you dial 999 for an emergency, and while you're waiting, you continue that cycle. So the back thrusts, the abdominal pushes as well. Okay. Now it's different for children and for adults, and that's why Julianne is going to come in now.
Yes, come and join us, Julianne.
So the first thing you do with a child who can talk, or an adult, is ask them, are they choking? Because sometimes it's not. It's actually they've got some other irritation, and that's what's causing the problem. The next thing is you'd ask, if you think they might be choking, can you cough? And if they can, you get them to cough and to keep coughing, again, to try and dislodge whatever it is that's obstructing their airway. If you think that they are actually choking, so they can't talk, they can't laugh, they can't cry, and they can't breathe, this is where we start off by leaning the person forwards. You support them like this, and using the heel of your hand, you're doing those back thrusts again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, you check the mouth. If you can see something there, you ask the person to take it out themselves. If they're still not recovered, this is where we do the abdominal thrusts. So we lean the person forwards, I put my arms around them, I clench my fist, I put the other hand around, and between their belly button and the lower chest, I go very sharply in and up. Like that, and you'll see up to 5 times. And you'll see that reaction that Julianne gave that's the sort of thing that can throw and dislodge the obstruction. Again, like with the baby, if the problem is still existing, you get help with 999, but you continue that cycle of the back and the abdominal thrusts until help arrives.
Brilliant.
So those are the sorts of things. Practice at home. Ideally, go on a first aid training course, so you're taught professionally, but there are lots of videos online as well where people can do this, and just get used to the whole procedure, because really when the time comes everybody gets panicked, and it's good to be able to just go into it and know what you're doing.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Julianne. Thank you. Okay, Rob.
Now, other things that happen can be scary, but not as scary. Cuts and grazes, for example. So how do you manage that? Well, the first thing to do is actually, if you think that the bleeding is severe, or that there might be an object in the cut, or it might be looking infected, you get medical advice. Otherwise, you run it under cold water, and then you pat it dry with a non-fluffy bit of material. And then you might want to raise, you might want to raise the arm. Or if it's an injury to the leg, you lie the person down and you raise the leg so it's above the level of the heart, because that can help stem any bleeding. And then you put a dressing on it, and a simple dressing we've got here in the first aid kit, and everybody really should have a first aid kit at home. You've got sterile dressings and you've got plasters here. And actually, if you haven't got running water, you can use an alcohol-free wipe to clean the area. The other things that happen, obviously, people fall over, they sprain the joints and they strain them. We've talked about this in Doctor's Answers before, the rice technique. So rest, you ice it. You never put ice directly on the skin, you always wrap it in a cloth. And the best thing actually is frozen veg wrapped in something. You compress it with a bandage so it's comfortable, and you elevate it. And that solves that problem. If you think somebody's got a fracture, the most important thing to do is to immobilize that area. So if it's the arm, you put it in a sling. If it's a leg, you can actually tie it to the uninjured leg so that it's not moving. You strap it to it, and obviously you get some help either from the ambulance or getting somebody off to an A&E department. But the key thing is not to move somebody unless they're in immediate danger. Kids and water should never be left alone unsupervised around water, because a child can drown in just a couple of centimetres of water. So bath time is a great time, lovely fun, but you should always keep an eye on the child, and if you have to leave the bath, take the child with you. With drowning, where basically the mouth and nose are flooded with water or another liquid so the person can't breathe, once you've rescued the person, the first thing to check is, can they breathe? If they can't, you kick into CPR, and I'm sure that's cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and I'm sure we're going to do something on that in the near future. If they are breathing, then what you need, and they've been outdoors in water, then they might be hypothermic, they might be very cold. So you want to warm them up, and so you wrap them in blankets or clothes, and when they're recovered, get off their wet clothes and put dry clothes on them. What's one of the most common accidents that happens at home? Falls, so you get fractures and burns, isn't it? Burns and scalds, and that can happen in the bath, or it can happen in the kitchen, or it can happen near fires in living rooms. How do we manage those? Well, the first thing is to move the child away from the source of the heat, so they don't go and touch it again. Remove any tight clothing, or any clothing, and certainly any jewellery, so long as it's not stuck to where the burn area is. You don't want to damage the burn unnecessarily. And then you cool the area, and you do that by running it under cool, not cold water. You run it for at least 10 minutes, or until the pain has gone. And then what you do, and this is why I've got cling film, you simply cover it with some cling film. Don't strap it round, just put some over to cover, to keep it clean.
So very loose.
Just cover it to keep it from the environment. One of the myths about burns, and what you should never do, is put butter, creams or gels on the burn, because that doesn't...
Old wives' tale.
It's an old wives' tale. It doesn't help. It makes matters worse. It means that the injury to the skin might be worse, and you might introduce infection.
Right, okay.
If the burn is severe, we're talking about any burns to the face, the hands, the feet, the genitals, or if the burn is larger than the victim's hand, or if it's a deep burn, they need urgent medical advice to be assessed. My advice to parents is, if you're not sure, pick up the phone and get medical advice. Never be embarrassed to do that. The other thing, preventable, but it happens, poisoning. Might be household products, it might be medicines, it could be berries from plants in the garden. So things to do if you think a child has been, or anybody's been poisoned, in fact, is try and find out, establish from them what they've taken, when they've taken it, and how much. Yeah. Then you phone up for medical advice and give the person, whether it's a 999 call or your doctor, as much information as possible. And whilst you're waiting to get help, you just monitor them to make sure that they're not becoming drowsy, they're not stopping breathing, for example, they're not having seizures. And another myth, something that actually you must never do, is never try and make the person vomit.
Okay, good to know. Yeah.
The risk is that stuff that may be corrosive might cause further burning, or they may inhale this, so we get ourselves into damage to the lungs or potentially into a choking situation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. However, if the person does vomit, and you're not going to like this, but if they do vomit, keep a sample of it, because if you can give that to the medical teams, they can try and analyse to find out exactly what was taken in the first place.
Brilliant.
So those are the sorts of things. Prevention is better than cure. It's why we talk about making sure any cables are out of the reach of kids. You don't, and particularly don't let your child go to sleep with headphones on, because the cables might get wrapped around. All these things are preventable, but everybody's human. And sometimes these things happen. And I can't emphasise the importance of actually going on a formal first aid training course, if you're in any way looking after children, no matter what age they are.
Right. Rob, thank you so much. Really great information, very useful.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you again next time for our regular segment.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Well, everyone, don't go away, because after the break, we talk to resident family coach Sharon Lawton on the ways parents can make family safety fun and accessible in the household. And resident psychologist Dr.Audrey Tang talks about how to deal with trauma after a serious accident. But first, let's see if you were paying attention. Which of these is the most common household accident? Is it burns, falls, or choking? Find out the answer after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, your programme for all things mental health and well-being. So before the break, we asked you which of these are the most common household accidents. Is it A, burns, B, falls, or C, choking? The answer is B. According to ROSPA, falls are the most common household accident, with the most common area of the house being the lounge or living room. But don't worry, parents, there are many ways of making the home a safe place, and here to tell us how to do just that and make it fun for the whole family is resident family coach Sharon Lawton. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Hi, Chris, thanks.
So it's Family Safety Week. Now, do you think it should just be the parents' responsibility to keep the family home safe, or do you think the children need to be involved as well?
Oh, interesting. Personally, I think safety is everybody's responsibility, not just parents, but anybody who's sort of coming in and out of the household, but, the community as a whole, really, we can all play our part. Yeah. And that includes the children as well. I think, certainly from my experience, I find that one of the most common things that parents contact me about or want to talk to me about is how to keep their children safe. And I think, it's probably one of the most common things that parents worry about. So, I want to keep my child safe at school, if they're out playing, and also in the home. So I think sort of those main areas really would be safety online.
Yes.
Safety when they're out and about, so personal safety, and also the prevention of accidents in the home, so keeping your house safe as well, because as you well know, the biggest area of accidents is actually in the home. So there are lots of things that we can do, to just little things to keep the home a little bit safer for our children and families. And there are games that I play, how can you keep yourself safe even if, and I play that a lot with families, and I've brought it along today. I thought maybe we'll have a little play.
I like having you on the show.
Good. So this one's available on my website as well.
Okay.
but positive solution cards.
Right.
So the whole point of positive solution cards is, in a very fun way, is that we help to lay down, as I said before, those strong problem-solving synapses in the brain, because we want a nice, healthy, strong brain that can work out problems if we need them to, if they arise.
Yes.
So, a few cards, and they vary in age. So if I get sort of a couple of fun ones out and then some more serious ones, would that be okay?
Yes.
So if I just did that one and...
Positive solution cards.
Positive solutions. So it's all about talking about different ways in which we can stay safe, and helping our young people to think about positive solutions and opening up that whole conversation within the family. So choose a card.
Okay,
so what does it say?
So how could I keep myself safe even if an alien landed in the garden?
Wow, okay, so how could we keep ourselves safe if an alien landed in the garden? So let's pretend that you are, I don't know, 6 or 7. Yeah. What might you say, do you think?
I would say I would hide under the bed.
Yeah, and we could talk about that, couldn't we? If I was your parent or your safe adult, I would say, oh yes, that's a really good idea. Where else could we hide?
Okay.
Or what if it was a friendly alien? What then? So you can start talking and sort of really developing it out. Yeah. Okay. So shall I choose one?
Yes.
What have I got here? Oh, let's have. How could I keep myself safe even if the fire alarm goes off?
Okay.
So this really gives a good opportunity to start talking about fire safety and fire exit plans, so that when that alarm goes off, our brain doesn't go into panic. When we go into panic, we shut down, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
We've already laid down those solutions. So they're fun, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I love them.
So one last thing I would say is, and sort of talking about personal safety rather than accidents in the home this time, is to encourage young people, regardless of what age. And I think it's important for us as adults as well to have 5 safe people that we can speak to in times of emergency, or if we're worried or about anything. So if you're feeling worried, who are 5 people that you could turn to and speak to? We can sort of count them off on our hands. If they are very young children, you can call it your hug list. So the people that you feel safe talking to in an emergency. So just a few things there to speak about safety.
Much.
You're welcome.
You make everything make sense, and it's just it's really good. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time.
I look forward to it, Chris. Thanks.
Thank you. And everyone, if you want to know more about Sharon and also to find out more about these games, you can visit our website, chrissybshow.tv, scroll down and you'll find her details there. Now, sometimes no matter how hard you try to prevent something, things do happen. And here to talk about how to help us psychologically deal with the trauma of unexpected accidents is resident psychologist Dr. Audrey Tang. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So it's Family Safety Week.
Yes.
And it's extremely, extremely important to talk about this and cover the topics associated with this, because it can really ruin a family if something terrible happens.
Absolutely. When you're talking about traumatic experiences, they are experiences where you or a loved one are put at risk of serious harm or death. So this does usually include accidents, road traffic accidents, accidents within the home, illness it can include as well. It can even include abuse, but also natural disasters. They all come under traumatic events. Yeah. The reason why it's so important to deal with this particular subject is because the minute your body experiences a traumatic event, it starts kicking into fight or flight mode. The stress response really becomes quite significant. Yeah. Your blood pressure rises, your heartbeat rate goes up, you start sweating. This can start affecting your sleep. It can start affecting your gut. For women, it can affect your menstrual cycle as well. So,
really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Very much so. Well, the history behind that is it's so that you don't actually conceive during a stressful period, which kind of makes a bit of sense. So that's why it's quite important to deal with it, because that tends to last for as long as the trauma lasts. But unfortunately, it can leave us with not side effects, but a residual effect of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and all of those other unpleasant mental health issues that can affect us following a shocking event.
So, Audrey, does accident-related trauma differ from other types of trauma that a person can experience?
often does, because of the fact it can be very shocking and very unexpected, and that in itself can intensify the stress response, because something just happens completely out of the blue. You were spending your day, starting your day perfectly normally, and then something goes wrong. So unfortunately, yes, it can. It also can result in things like survivor guilt, or what if I could have prevented that, especially when it comes to an accident. And what's really important to remember is to think about really what you can control and what you can't. This is a big distinction which a lot of people struggle with. For example, if you have a car accident, then if you say to yourself, right, okay, this happened because I was on my mobile phone, that is something you can control. But a lot of us sit there and go, oh, what if I just left 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later? That is not necessarily quite so manageable. So it's very important that if you're thinking about what can I do, how can I change things for next time, really think about what you can influence, what you can affect, and that's a big thing.
That's all you can do, isn't it?
That's absolutely. Accidents also, especially when they have had a serious outcome, that can result in the stages of grief, the anger, the bargaining, if it should have been me, that sort of feeling, which is very painful for those, not only the person who's been in that accident, but the people around them. That's very hard for them as well. That can be quite difficult. It's very difficult to know sometimes who to talk to as well. You might think you're the only one who's ever experienced that. You might be embarrassed, you might feel guilty. So that can also stop us reaching out for help. So those are things which are very important to remember.
So if you are going through some kind of trauma like that, what should you do? What's the first port of call?
Do try and reach out to people. Forums are often very useful, although sometimes they can turn into a bit of a, this happened to me, this happened to me, and that's worse. And so be careful with which forums you go on to. Speaking to friends and family, even asking for practical help. It might even be something along the lines of, could you look after my children whilst I go and visit my husband in the hospital? Those things are actually important. The practical support, never underestimate the value of that. Also, as I say, think about what you can manage, control what you can control for next time. Try not to blame yourself. That's another thing that can start a spiral of depression. Try not to self-soothe and self-medicate through recreational drugs, alcohol, and all of those other things as well. And know that you're not alone. Other people will have gone through something similar, and even if it's not exactly the same as your experience, the shock, the stress, the way they've got through it, that might help you as well. So it is important to communicate.
Brilliant. Audrey, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we shall see you again next time.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, everyone don't go away, because after the break we have on Sally Walford giving us her tips on how to declutter your kitchen drawers, and we show you how we got on when we visited one of Marilyn Hawes' educational talks on the signs of a sexual abuser. But first, which country hoards the most clutter in Europe? Is it A, France, B, the UK, or C, Denmark? Think you know the answer? Find out after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, the program that loves to look after your mental health and well-being. So before the break, I asked you which country hoards the most clutter in Europe. Is it A, France, B, the UK, or C, Denmark? The answer is the UK. According to Household Beautiful, we are the worst when it comes to keeping old nicks we don't use or need. But don't worry, because if you're among the lot in need of some spring cleaning help, here is our resident decluttering expert, Sally Walford, on hand to show us how to declutter our kitchen drawers.
Hello everyone, my name is Sally Walford and I'm the resident declutterer for the Chrissy B Show. And today I'm going to show you how to declutter some of those kitchen utensils and also show you some storage solutions for your kitchen. So I'm sure that everybody must be guilty of a little bit of an untidy cutlery drawer or utensil drawer. So I brought some along just to show you how I think that these should be organised and how you can store them slightly better. So firstly, let's get everything out of those drawers and we're going to place them on the kitchen table or on a surface that's closest. So you can actually see what it is that you have. This is also a great opportunity to see if you have duplicates of anything. So let's place these all together. There we go. And as you can see, already we've organised our utensils quite clearly. But what we're going to do here is we're going to utilise something that we have maybe as a vase or a clear jar, because sometimes it's tricky to get these large utensils into a drawer. So we're going to pop the larger items so that we are able to see what we have and utilise them. And then we can place the smaller items into a cutlery drawer. And as you can probably see here, I have some duplicates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of them that I use all the time, and then I'm going to actually declutter the two that I don't use. So what about the other implements that you have in your kitchen? So some people might have an ice cream maker, a bread maker, or a fondue set that hasn't seen the light of day since 2 Christmases ago. So it's time to get those out. For example, I have this masher which I got given as a present, and I actually have another one that I utilise at home. So I've decided to re-gift. So if you know somebody that could use that fondue set or the ice cream maker, now is the time to give that as a present. Some storage solutions now for you for the kitchen. So these are incredibly handy to have if you don't have a lot of storage in your cupboards. You put them together very easily, and they come in lots of different sizes. And what they actually do is give you an extra shelf inside your cupboards. So we can stack, for example, cups, like that. Here we go. And therefore you're utilising the space a lot better. Okay, and so lastly, just another top tip that perhaps you can apply to anything in your home is to perhaps invest in a labelling machine. Now this is going to help you in all areas of your home, but particularly the kitchen. If you're using glass or plastic receptacles, you'll be able to label everything and also even mark how much that you've got. I think it's something that helps keep on top of all of that stuff that you have, but also can be fun for everybody. So if you have children, they can start joining in with labelling. They find it great fun. And also, it's going to help you in applying organisational skills to your everyday life, which is so important, because a decluttered home is definitely a decluttered life.
Thank you very much to Sally there. Now, we here on the programme know that prevention is better than cure, and here's how we got on when we filmed a talk courtesy of resident child safety advocate and Enough Abuse founder Marilyn Hawes on the signs of a child sexual abuser.
You're here today because this is something that we really need to get to grips with. We need to understand more about it. We need to face it, I think, face the reality of it, not kid ourselves that it's not happening and not happening on our doorstep, and I suppose equip ourselves better for how we deal with it and how we protect our children.
I was a deputy head teacher in a Church of England school, and I had the shock of my life in 2002 when I was told by the police that this man who'd been my best friend for 17 years and my boss for 10 was a paedophile. On my watch, my 3 sons were also sexually abused by him. Well, we're in this school, in this hall today, to show the staff at this excellent school about child sexual exploitation. You know, we're in Surrey, it's very leafy and lovely, but it doesn't matter where you are. Child sexual abuse happens everywhere, in every town, in every village, everywhere. It is part of the broken human condition, and if you don't think that's not happening in Dorking, then I think you're in for a huge shock. About 85% of mental health problems come from child abuse. So it's here. There will be in your school, you've got 800 children, you will have at least 40 who have been sexually abused. At least, that's a promise Our whole focus is on behaviours and awareness. There's not a single policy you write that will prevent abuse. You have to be in tune with the behaviours, and so it's raising that awareness. It is always the behaviours that's your clue. It doesn't matter what your child protection policy says. If you do not understand and you can't identify the children at risk and the adults and even the children who are the risk, then you're going to miss it every time. No one is born to abuse. No one has been wired as a baby to be an abuser. Something happened in those early years. The difference of knowledge is about 2% between what trained staff know and what non-trained parents know. There's very little difference. The lack of knowledge in this country is alarming because we're not doing these prevention courses. We are, but no one's doing it like we're doing it. And that's the point. That's the thing that shifts people. You know, education is about changing the shape of your brain. So I have you for 2 hours. I absolutely need to make sure that when you leave this room, you've changed. It's not the same as sharing information. Any fool can stand on a stage and share something out of a book. Educating people is different. It's about getting behind the eyes and turning the cogs in the brain, getting you to think, getting you to just open your mind more, and then be more proactive about what might be going on out there in a child's life. Now please, when you're in future, ask why. Why do I feel so weird inside about this parent? Why am I getting this quirky feeling about this young teenager? What is it he or she is doing with these other children? What is going on in those showers? What is happening? Why do I feel so weird about that colleague of mine? Why is that child behaving? It doesn't feel right. You cannot put a price on your instinct. How do you identify a child at risk? How do you identify someone who is the risk? And it's tuning into your senses and trying to be the child and think, how would I feel? Asking the why all the time. Why are you behaving like that? Why aren't you answering me? Why? Be observant. It's raising that awareness of observancy, observant behaviour, and talk about it. We can't have this being dumbed down anymore. Have to talk about it. Now in prison, this is what they tell me proudly with a smile on their face. Oh, we fish for children who take the bait. It's easy. If we're looking for children of 12, 13 years old, say, we look what's on trend. You know, what's the nicest phone they'd have? What's the best thing they want? Where do they hang out? Where are they these days? How do I find them online? What do I tempt them with? And I say to them, what would stop you? Then they went, having you in the room. And what you're doing to identify people like us to adults and parents is what you need to be doing, because we won't come near anyone that thinks, you know, they're on our case.
It's a really difficult thing to sit and listen to, and to it's frightening, it's scary, it's necessary.
This here was taken by the American Navy 2 years ago from a radar, and they were asked to take a picture of activity online of people swapping images, inappropriate images, abuse images. Every one of these yellow blobs was online. Every one of those yellow blobs was an internet service provider. Every one of those yellow blobs had at least 10,000 people operating. In that one click, that was it.
In 1 second, the amount of people that do horrific things in 1 second, it really scared me.
We get referrals from adults that were abused that come and speak to me afterwards. We've had children identified. A lot of these teachers tonight will probably look differently at certain children in their classes that think, hang on, I thought something was odd. Now I've got a few more pointers. Now I've got something to add to the mix that make that decision different.
From this now we're going to look forward to Marilyn coming in and actually taking some training for the children themselves, and actually for the benefit of the children hearing it firsthand from somebody outside, because I think it makes a big impact. Essentially, I want to make a difference. I do not, it's insane to think that no one's it's never going to happen again, that there's never going to be another mother or another school. Of course there will be. But if we can just stop, if we can just prevent one child a week from being harmed, then my goodness me, your oxygen's been worth it.
Well, don't go away, because after the break, Helena Shard fills us in on the latest feel-good news, and I also give you my tips on how to have a mentally safe household. But first, can you tell me if this is true or false? Every year there are approximately 6,000 deaths as the result of a home accident. Find out if you're right after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where today we've been talking all about family safety. Now, before the break, I asked you if this was true or false. Every year, there are approximately 6,000 deaths as the result of a home accident. The answer, unfortunately, is true, but thankfully, as we've learned today, most accidents are preventable through further safety education. Well, now it's time to be informed with the lovely Helena Shard in this week's news segment. Hello, Helena.
Hi, Chrissy.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
So I found this amazing doing the research, because obviously with your home, you just sort of think it's your castle and you want to go back and just cosy up, and then so many accidents happen. Amazing. But obviously, as you say, good news that you can educate yourself and prevent them. Starting with, so a study of 2,000 parents reveals that millions of children's lives are at risk because, as we say, mums and dads don't have the life-saving skills. Something like a quarter have no skills at all, apparently. And 85% have to update their skills. I'm guilty. I'm not a parent.
I have done a couple of first aid training courses, and I do need to.
I think everyone has to update.
You kind of forget after a while, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, 6 in 10 British homes don't have a first aid kit. That is really quite high, isn't it?
How many? 6?
6 in 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So Siobhan Freegard, who's founder of channelmum.com, teamed up with St John's Ambulance and produced a brand new video, How to Save a Life in 60 Seconds. I think there's something like 7 little films, which is really handy. So obviously it's really frightening to give first aid, I think, when you're unsure about it, but imagine how frightening it is when you just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah, it's even worse.
So it's a very good little video, and great to get everyone to watch it, including people looking after your children, which is really important. And moving on to something which is, again, in research, I was like, wow, with all the things coming out. So why does IKEA furniture have to be fixed to the wall, and is it really necessary? So reading about the Malm product, which is like a big chest of drawers. I don't know if you've seen it in IKEA, and they have instruction manuals that come with it. And one of the things is that you have to use a wall bracket with it, and it's with every single one of them. But obviously, there have been tragic situations. A couple of children unfortunately killed. Really? And then another safety warning was put out, and another person was killed. They had to then recall loads of their Malm cupboards in to see if there's anything they could do. Luckily in the UK, no deaths through this, but there have been some injuries, so it is a problem. There is something online, in fact, which shows a 2-year-old saved his twin brother when oh my goodness, bookcase fell on him. And very interesting, because there was like a little camera in the room. Obviously the mother could caught that and put it online on YouTube to show how dangerous things are. So you really to fix furniture to the wall where you can. But that was quite amazing. The little boy actually had insight to lift it off his twin brother. So great. Wow. So I seem to have talked so much about that one story that we've barely got any time left. What can I do? I know. I tell you what, can I just do a very quick one? Which actually is completely unrelated in a way, so maybe I shouldn't do it. I'll save it to next time.
Oh, Helena, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, everyone, so now it's time for my tips on how to have a mentally safe household. Okay, so let's get to my first point on how to have a mentally safe household. Very important is don't compare. So this could be, for example, statements like to your spouse, why can't you be more like Julie's husband? Or to your child, why can't you be more like your brother or more like your sister? This really puts someone down a lot. It can really affect their confidence, so never ever compare, no matter the situation. Number 2, no shaming as well. It's quite closely linked to the first one. So shaming statements could be, you never do anything right. Now that makes someone really nervous, and even if, for example, they were trying to do something right, but because of maybe what you said, it makes them all nervous and they end up doing something wrong. So I have my own example of this as an adult when I had a job as a PA working for someone very important. And I remember one day he wanted to set up a really important telephone conference, and it was the first one that I was doing. And then he said to me, he wasn't horrible or anything, but he said to me, Chris, make sure you do not mess this up. And just that statement alone really made me nervous. And you can guess what happened. I managed to eventually get everyone on the line. And then I put the phone down because I thought that's what you're supposed to do once you've set everyone up, not kind of remembering that I was the one that actually called everyone, so I couldn't put the phone down. I messed up the whole conference. My boss was really upset with me. But just because he said, don't mess it up, that already made me nervous. So imagine when you say to someone, oh, you always do this wrong, or you're always messing up, or you're always doing things wrong. That will just make them make mistakes because they're feeling not very good about themselves. My third point is to make sure you apologize if you've upset someone. So don't think, for example, that you lose respect by apologizing to your child. So maybe there are parents that think, well, I'm not going to apologize to my child. They're only little. Why should I say sorry? They won't respect me if I apologize to them. Well, actually, they will respect you because children can sometimes be quite resentful of parents later on in life because their parents never actually apologized for things when they were younger, or it felt like their feelings were dismissed and that parents would upset them but then not say anything to kind of make things right. And sometimes you might think, oh, a kiss and a cuddle is enough. Well, actually just saying sorry, because it teaches them also how to treat other people and how to be in relationships as well. So it's never ever a bad thing to apologize for making a mistake, no matter how young a person is. The next one is to respect differences. So you really need to treat everyone as individuals. Even if you are the parent of twins, those twins could be completely different to one another in terms of the way they see things, the way they feel about things. Maybe one would be more emotional than the other one. You can't expect everyone to think the same way as each other, or to have the same feelings about things as you do. You need to really understand that everyone is an individual, and you need to respect that. You can't just say, oh, one's better than the other, or the one's opinion is better than the other because they're different. It doesn't work that way. And actually, if you have these kind of issues at home, how do you see things outside as well? I mean, if you take a workplace, for example, normally you would respect people's differences at work because, you have to get along with everyone and you've got a job to do and you don't want to lose your job. So you kind of make that, it seems like you make that extra effort outside of the home, but you should make that same effort within the home even more, I would say, because these are the ones that the people that you love and you're supposed to be sharing a house with. So you need to make even more effort to respect differences at home as well. The next one, which actually links to this one, is to ask everyone's opinion. So if there is a major decision that has to be made, or there's something going on, there's some kind of family troubles, and it's something that the kids are involved in, for example, ask what people's opinion about things. Say, for example, it's moving house or moving to another area or another country even. Just ask how everyone feels. Of course, you're not gonna, your 5-year-old, if you ask your 5-year-old, oh, where do you want to live? They're probably gonna say Disneyland or something. Of course, you're not gonna go with that, but at least ask, how do you feel about moving? How do you feel about going to another country? Even if they're dead against it, but at least you know how they feel, and then you can kind of talk to them and explain, the reasons why you're moving, for example. So you can't sort of just make decisions and not inform anyone in the house and just expect everyone to go with it, because that could really affect someone's confidence and actually make them feel that they're not really worth much because they weren't consulted about anything. So very, very important to actually have family meetings and discuss things openly. There might be things, concerns that your children or your partner has that you never even thought of, it never crossed your mind. So always very important to communicate. And the next one is to respect boundaries as well. So, for example, if your partner or even your child needs space and for example, doesn't want a hug at that particular moment, don't force them. You know, it's not anything against you, but again, everyone is different, and they have their own boundaries. Maybe, you know, I know, for example, when I was growing up and going through puberty and things like that, I didn't want my dad anywhere near me for some reason. I didn't want his hugs or his kisses or anything, because I just felt yucky. I felt like I was going through all these changes, and I was probably the typical moody teenager, but that wasn't anything about him, it was the things that I was going through. So just see, sometimes your child might not want a hug, maybe your partner's had a bad day and they just want to kind of clear their mind and not think about anything or not talk about anything. Just make sure you give each other space as well. And if you see that, you know, someone wants to be on their own, respect that and let them get on with it, and then they'll come back to you, and, you know, the house will be a much calmer place if everyone actually respects boundaries, and it will just be a lot nicer environment at home, I would say. Well, everyone, I hope those tips have helped you. That's it for today, and if you guys at home have any comments that you would like to share with us, maybe there was something in the program that particularly helped you and you would like to tell us about it, you can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And as always, if you'd like to know more about my mental health journey, you can visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye for now. I never really liked those apart from my mum. They used to scare me.
Me too.
They just look at you. See, she's looking. She blinks.
Yeah.
I don't like her.
No, she's...
I don't like Dolly. She's scary.
Yeah, you watch when she does the thing. Yeah. When she does the whole thing.
I don't like dollies.
Yeah.
I like teddy bears when I was little.
Are we on Instagram at the moment?
No.